What's up guys, I am Kenny from Upscale Lures, and if you enjoy fishing, design, or 3D printing, make sure to subscribe. I put out a video every single week. This is episode number 11 of my series Upscale Fishing Interviews, and I was lucky enough to interview Ross. If you could please tell us the name of your YouTube channel and the main focus.
Our channel name is Burnin. It's based on the figure 8 technique that we use with musky fishing, and it's basically a group of 3 guys, which we been implementing another one of our friends lately too. But it's a core group of 3 to 4 guys here that we do musky fishing, hunting, and we'll do other types of fishing too, like bass fishing. But our main focus is musky fishing and hunting. We greatly enjoy, like bow hunting, turkey hunting, stuff like that. But our whole goal with the channel has always been to basically create immersive outdoor entertainment. We want to bring the viewer along with us, basically in the boat or out in the woods, and create that feel of a nice quality video. Something that you can relate to, and that when you get out in the woods, or when you're looking to get out in the woods and you're looking for a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of motivation to get you ready for your next trip, whether it's hunting big game or musky fishing, whatever it is. But we hope to bring that to the viewer and hopefully add a little bit of information and something that they can learn from and take away for their next trip or fishing adventure.
What book have you read the most, or what book has greatly influenced your life?
As far as a book that's greatly influenced my life, I would have to say number 1 is the Bible. It's taught me how to live, and it's taught me about salvation. So that right there has always been important. But number 2 would be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's basically a book that gives you an entrepreneurial mindset, and it shows you how to set yourself up for success. I enjoyed the takeaways from it as far as helping to grow my life.
What fishing gear or lure purchase of $100 or less has made the most impact in the last 12 months?
At this point in time, it's the Lee Lures Boilermaker. It put my first 50-inch muskie in the boat for me back in May, and it's put some other fish in the boat for us lately. So it's been kind of a game changer, especially for night fishing. But if you guys want it, check it out. I would recommend it. It's catching big fish for us.
How has a failure, big or small, set you up for a later success? And do you have a favorite failure of yours?
As far as failure, I wouldn't say it's been a big failure. More or less a bunch of small failures that have kind of led me to where I'm at in this life. And failures basically allowed me to refine my life as far as what works, what doesn't. You fail, you move forward. And whether it's with musky fishing or with making videos, you learn what not to do. There's actually a video that we put out last year where my sister, she hooked easily the biggest muskie she's ever had on, and she had a failure in her line. And we did some more research, found out that a nick in her eyelet actually caused the failure. So right there you learn that you have to pay attention to your tackle, whether it's, you look over your rods. Pay special attention to the little things that might make the difference between putting a fish in the net or losing it. That's just a small example of failure, but it goes across the board, as far as my whole life. It's a lot of little failures make you who you are and make you better every day.
What is one of the best investments you have ever made?
I would have to say it was listening to audiobooks while I commuted back and forth to college. I listened to a lot of self-development, business building, wealth building books that kind of led me to where I'm at right now, and they put a whole new outlook on your life, and it's eye-opening to see how some people think versus how other people think. And there's a lot to learn, whether it's through reading or listening, and I took advantage of any type of free time that I had to try to grow myself through those type of books, whether it be Think and Grow Rich, like I mentioned earlier, or the 4-Hour Work Week, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 1 Minute Millionaire. Those type of books were always intriguing to me, and that's one of the best investments I think I've ever made.
I agree with you 100%. Audiobooks are amazing. The best thing about it is you can be doing something else while you're, reading whatever book. And definitely read the 4-Hour Work Week. That is a great book. Read that multiple times. I would recommend The Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday. he talks about how to make work that lasts. Very interesting, just a different way of looking at it. For the next question, what is a unusual lure or a absurd fishing tactic that you love to use?
I'm not so sure it's an absurd tactic, but it's maybe a little bit of a twist to the normal figure eight with musky fishing. Now, for like those of you who aren't familiar with figure eighting and musky fishing, muskies are notorious for fouling your baits, and you cast out, you're reeling in, and you get boat side with your lure, and you're always watching to see if there's a follow behind it. A lot of times there's a fish right behind your bait, and the figure eight maneuver, which is making an 8 in the water with your bait to try to get that fish to strike, is a key tactic in musky fishing. Basically, you're creating a change in direction or change in depth to spark that fish to eat. It's a rush in and of itself just to see a fish, let alone hook up with a fish. And it's one of the favorite parts of musky fishing that I absolutely love. But Burnin' 8s revolves around, one day me and Jake were fishing, and we decided to basically, fish were coming in a little bit lazy. We thought, how can we get them to go? How can we get them to speed up? So we kind of created that cat and mouse game with you getting boat side and you're burning. Like you speed up that bucktail that you're running, and you speed it up in the straightaway and you hang it in the turn, and a lot of times that sparks that fish. So we started talking amongst each other, like, burn the 8s. It's a little bit of a twist. It's not absurd. It's just a twist on the normal figure eight that everybody does with musky fishing. So you, like I said, basically you speed it up in the straightaway, get that fish hot, excited, and hang it in the turn, and hopefully watch it eat. So that's my answer to that question.
So they call the muskie the fish of 10,000 casts, and I completely agree with that. The amount of fishing I've done for muskie, and just for me, I guess you could say pretty unsuccessful. I've caught 3 muskies, but just the amount of casting I've done day in and day out, it's just unbelievable. So definitely I can see it makes sense. The fish of 10,000 casts can be so frustrating, but also on the other end, just insanely adrenaline pumping. Muskie has to be one of the fish that gets the adrenaline going than no other fish. Just the size they can get is just pure insanity. So for this question, what advice would you give to angler trying to catch their first muskie?
Work hard and don't quit, because these fish are going to test your patience. And I guess more tangibly, get yourself a good rod and a good net, because that's a key component to getting these fish landed. And these fish are hard enough to catch the way it is. So sharp hooks, good rod to hold up to the fight, good line, talking like at least 80-pound test, and get yourself a big enough net, because once the fight's on, it's intense and it's fun. It's short sometimes, but it's intense, and it's the rush we all love. But as far as some other advice, get yourself a good set of pliers, a little bit longer, so that you're away from the hooks for your safety when you're unhooking these fish, and also hook cutters for the fish's safety. A lot of times these fish are hooked to the point where it's more efficient, and it's better for them just to cut the hooks and get them back swimming as soon as possible. So also surround yourself with knowledgeable people, whether it be people that you know, or also watching videos online, YouTube videos, or reading. It's definitely going to be a challenge getting these fish, but that's kind of the whole part of this sport. I mean, it's basically muskie hunting. You're trying to figure out these fish and where they're located. You got to learn somehow the ins and outs of these muskies, and like I said, there's good avenues as far as reading magazines, articles, and there's a ton of information online, especially with YouTube videos now. So be sure to check that stuff out, because you're going to want it when the time comes to try to put these fish in the net.
When you feel unfocused or overwhelmed, what do you think about, or what do you do to get yourself back on track?
When I'm unfocused, I pray. I mean, it allows me to take a breather and just talk with God about the normal everyday ups and downs of life, or the struggles of life. And I think it's a very important aspect for all people. I mean, and it's definitely helped my life.
When you hear the word successful, who comes to mind?
When I hear the word successful, I don't know if it's necessarily one person that comes to mind for me, but it's many that have influenced me or affected me in my life somehow. It's business people that I can look up to and that I can learn from that hopefully lead to, say, my wealth building in the future. And I think there's a lot more to be said besides just wealth building with success too. I mean, there's all these little things in life that, like with my parents and my grandparents, that I look at and I take away from them, that they've taught me how to live. They've taught me how to grow as a person. I've watched them in what they've done in their life, and they've been successful in so many different ways. I think what it comes down to is I've tried to take little notes throughout my life of what makes all these different people successful, and then combine that together and apply it to my life. And I think it's definitely helped to build that image in your mind of what a successful person is. It's so much more than just money. It's so much more than just having the biggest house. I mean, there's a lot that goes to it. And I guess that's why I say it's not just one person that comes to my mind.
You often talk about moonrise in many of your videos. Could you explain what that is and how has that helped you catch more muskie?
When we talk about the moon in our videos, and whether it's moonrise, moonset, moon underfoot, moon overhead, that is what we can attribute a lot of our success to with muskies, because these fish they're somewhat predictable when it comes to the moon, because they really do feed off of it. I mean, I could list off a handful right now. I mean, Jake caught a 47-inch muskie that was right before underfoot, if I remember correctly. I caught a 49.5-inch muskie that was right at moonset and sunset. And then a 48.5 that I boated last fall down in southern Wisconsin that was right, I'm talking like 2 minutes before moon underfoot. So there's a ton of examples that we've seen throughout all of our fishing. And when I say overhead is when it's halfway between rise and set. And then underfoot would be when it's halfway between set and rise. So those lunar times really affect how a muskie feeds. And my advice would be on the water at those times to put yourself in the best possible scenario for putting a fish in the boat. And you're gonna fish it at times and you're not gonna catch a muskie and you're gonna say, why am I doing this? But if you do it enough, you're gonna see a pattern that more often than not, you're seeing action at least. Fish are moving around moon times or they're eating around moon times. So it's definitely something that you want to implement into your arsenal for muskie fishing. Pay attention to the moon times.
So what video are you most proud of? And I'll leave a link below so my viewers, you guys can check it out.
I would say the video that we're most proud of is probably Jake's 51.5-inch muskie. And it was kind of a surreal moment for us out on the water because we had finally put a 50-inch fish into the boat for that season. It was Jake's first 50-inch fish. It was the culmination of like the whole season. I mean, you worked so hard for these fish and you finally put a nice one in the boat, and it's what every muskie fisherman wants, is that one over 50. 50 inches or bigger is your goal. And it was just an awesome moment to be out there, sun setting, and you're in the outdoors and you're loving life. It was a really fun edit for me because I put myself in that position again, like the moment you catch it, and try to convey to the viewers what we felt that night. And I know a lot of people have enjoyed that video, so it's definitely one of our favorites.
What is the most exciting project you guys will be working on this year?
The most exciting project that we have going this year, I would say, is a 3 versus 3 versus 3 challenge with 2 different YouTube channels. It's Burnin, Today's Angler, and Just Keep Casting, which you guys should check out their channels if you enjoy fishing. But we are competing against those 2 other channels on 3 different scenarios. We got 3 different legs. We just competed up in northern Wisconsin. We're going to be in southern Wisconsin in the fall. And basically it's a competition to see who can come out on top for muskie fishing with the most fish over 30 inches. And it's a point system based off that. It's kind of intense because muskie fishing in itself is intense with a rush, but now you add competition to that and it gets even better. And there's actually videos to a 2-part video series that we put out last fall from when we fished initially down in southern Wisconsin against Today's Angler and Just Keep Casting. That was an amazing day for us and it was intense. So you guys can check that out if you want to try to see what this whole 3 versus 3 versus 3 challenge is about. But you can check out those videos on our lineup here on our channel if you're interested.
What was your guys' most challenging video?
The most challenging video that we ever made was recently uploaded back in the spring here, early spring. We went out to South Dakota. It's titled The Reality of Fishing. It basically, it sums up a bad day of fishing, and we all know that it happens, and it was just a brutal weekend for us, and we made a quick day trip out to South Dakota to try to get some big perch on film. It didn't pan out, and that's just the way it goes. So we put out this video because we know there's tons of people that can relate to it. You go out fishing and a lot of times it doesn't work. We hoped that people could enjoy it because they've been there, hopefully. We know we're there a lot, so we wanted to share it, and that was definitely our most challenging video to make.
Would you have any last message, action, or challenge for my viewers?
I would say get out there and enjoy the outdoors. There's so much to explore and so many adventures to take. I mean, experience the rush of musky fishing, or get in the woods, get on the water, enjoy nature. I mean, that's kind of what we revolve around at Burnin Eights, is just getting out and doing that and having fun. I mean, there's so much to do in this world.
All right, Ross, I appreciate you taking the time and doing the interview. Maybe sometime we could go and do some musky fishing, and you guys can show me how to get it done. If you could please tell me the best place to find you guys online.
The best way to find us is there's multiple different avenues. Burnin Eights is our YouTube channel. Burnin8s.com is our website. If you want to follow us more closely and get in contact with us, hit us up on Instagram at Burnin Eights. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this interview. I got to thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and got to thank Kenny for offering the invite to do this interview. It was some good questions and good self-reflection time, so it was fun. I enjoyed it. So hopefully we'll see you guys either out in the woods or on the water.